They lied to you about the Kraken. And that's not simply because they wanted to deceive you, it's because the truth is not only harder to sell, it's harder to live with. You were taught to fear a creature that roars, that erupts from the sea and announces itself so you know when to be afraid. That version is loud, it's dramatic, and most importantly, it's beatable. That's the Kraken you were given, but that was never the Kraken that haunted sailors. Because when you strip away the spectacle, when you remove the roar, the chase, and the final battle, what remains doesn't just wait for your attention. It doesn't need a reveal, and it doesn't need a warning. This video isn't about proving the Kraken exists, it's about something far more unsettling.
By the end of this video, you'll understand that a true Kraken is nothing like what we see in movies. Instead, it's something far worse. A biological nightmare that actually deserves its legend. And when you do, you won't be wondering if the Kraken is real. You'll be hoping it never was.
To understand why, we have to go back, not to the movies, but to the sailors. So, long before sonar, engines, or modern navigation, accounts of something huge beneath the sea began appearing in Northern Europe. Some of the earliest written descriptions came from Scandinavian sources in the late 12th and early 13th centuries. By the 15th and 1600s, reports of the Kraken appeared repeatedly in sailors' logs and regional texts across the North Atlantic. These weren't campfire stories. They were written by fishermen, merchants, and naval crews, people whose lives depended on understanding the sea.
What's super interesting is just how consistent these stories are across different centuries. So, the Kraken wasn't fast, it didn't chase ships, and it didn't explode from the waves. Instead, it waited.
Accounts describe a massive tentacled presence, slow, deliberate, capable of pulling ships downward rather than smashing them apart. In several 17th and 18th century Norwegian and Danish descriptions, the creature was said to be so large it was mistaken for an island, only revealing itself when it submerged and dragged the surrounding water down with it. Can you imagine? You've been aboard a boat for God knows how long, and you and your crew spot what you think is an island. You approach to make landfall, and suddenly you're sucked to the bottom of the sea just because this massive creature, for whatever reason, decided to move. Yikes. This wasn't orchestrated chaos, just its weight.
So, sailors mainly struggled with one thing. No, not just surviving it, stop that. Not its movement or aggression, but understandably its size.
They described arms thicker than masts, bodies larger than ships, a presence so large it could only be understood in pieces. They never saw the Kraken all at once. They saw what broke the surface, what touched the hull, what changed the water around them. And when they tried to explain it, numbers stopped working, distance collapsed, and perspective failed.
So they reached for the only word that fit that feeling. Impossible. Not because it was imaginary, but because it exceeded every reference point they had. In these stories, scale isn't an exaggeration. Instead, it's the point when human measurement breaks.
The Kraken was never described as a creature you really saw, more like something that suddenly took hold. Arms rising where open water should be, arms wrapping hulls with the certainty of gravity, and arms appearing in multiple places at once, too thick and too many to count.
Not so much striking, more like claiming.
Cephalopod arms are muscular hydrostats. Solid muscle with no bones, no joints, and no fixed direction. Scaled to this size, each arm would be longer than ships are wide, thicker than masts, and strong enough to bend steel simply by tightening. And it's not only the suction that makes them devastating.
In many large squid, each sucker is ringed with thorny, hook-like structures. Tentacles freak me out, they really do. Chitinous teeth designed to hook in and lock in and prevent separation. Scaled up, these suckers definitely wouldn't just leave a mark.
They would tear plating, they would score steel, and they would shred anything organic caught between them. Hundreds of anchor points locking in at once, hull, keel, rudder, each one biting deeper as force increases. A ship wouldn't just feel one arm, it would feel itself pinned and damaged at the same time, held in place while its structure is being compromised from dozens of points simultaneously. The Kraken wouldn't just grab a ship, it would wrap it into itself.
And once something island-sized decides to hold you, survival or escape is really no longer an option at that point. It's more like a countdown to the afterlife.
Now, once the arms have taken hold, its strength stops being theoretical. Cephalopod muscle isn't just built for impact, it's also built for endurance. Each arm is a column of contracting tissue. No joints to fail, no bones to snap, and no leverage to exploit. When force is applied, it doesn't just peak, it grows. Modern octopus have already overpowered divers, ripped masks from faces, pulled regulators free, and held people underwater until resistance failed. Not just suddenly, but relentlessly. See, freaky, but also amazing.
Scaled up to something island-sized, that strength is no longer just dramatic. It pretty much changes all the rules.
Bolts stretch beyond tolerance, frames twist out of alignment, seams open where stress travels, not where damage is obvious. And when the hull finally gives, the encounter ends. Water doesn't just seep in, it rushes inward, flooding compartments in seconds, turning buoyancy into weight and balance into collapse. From that moment on, the Kraken wouldn't need to pull any harder. Once the structure fails, the ocean pretty much finishes the job.
And to make things somehow much worse, in the center of those arms is the Kraken's most underestimated feature, its beak. And honestly, it's true nightmare fuel.
In modern squid and octopus, the beak is made of layered chitin, hard enough to shear bone and crack shells cleanly. It isn't just designed to crush, it also cuts with ease. It's designed to start failure. Two halves meet at a single focus point, applying force exactly where the material is weakest. Scale that up, and the beak wouldn't just tear a ship apart. It would only need to bite once, below the waterline where pressure and flooding just do the rest. A breached keel, a punctured boundary, damage no pump or repair can undo.
Ships weren't just simply torn apart in Legend. They completely disappeared. Because once water enters into an area where it shouldn't, that's pretty much it. It's gone.
All of this would already be catastrophic if the Kraken were mindless.
But cephalopods aren't.
They have one of the strangest nervous systems on Earth. A distributed intelligence where more than half of their neurons exist outside a central brain and spread throughout their arms. Each arm can explore, test, adjust, and respond independently while still serving a shared goal. This isn't just instinct, it's thinking in parallel.
Modern cephalopods can recognize individual humans, solve problems, remember past experiences, and even change their behavior based on outcomes. They don't just react, they learn, just like you and I. They are absolutely incredible. Now, apply that level of intelligence to a cephalopod the size of an island. Not only is that absolutely horrifying, its intelligence becomes predictive.
The Kraken wouldn't just pull blindly, it wouldn't escalate without reason. Instead, it would know when the ship was failing, it would know when flooding reached a critical point, and it would know when the interaction no longer required its full attention.
At this point, there's literally no reason to soften the idea. A real-life biological Kraken wouldn't just be a rare danger, it would be absolutely catastrophic for ocean travel. Because once you combine that scale, that strength, and that intelligence, the question is no longer if it can destroy a ship. It's that nothing built to cross the ocean is designed to survive being deliberately handled by it.
Now, picture a massive cruise ship. Thousands of people, steel decks stacked on steel decks, safety systems designed for storms, fires, collisions. None of it matters. Because the moment the Kraken commits, the ship stops being a vehicle and becomes a load. Arms lock in from above, below, and across, spreading force so evenly that no single failure looks dramatic. Then, the entire structure starts failing. Instruments disagree, decks tilt, doors jam. Below the waterline, its beak slices open the hull with a single bite. Compartments flood faster than people can move, stairwells turn into vertical rivers. The ship doesn't just sink, it completely loses the argument with buoyancy. And if you're thinking depth offers safety, consider a submarine. It's built to survive pressure that would instantly crush you and I. Once grabbed, its very design becomes its weakness. The Kraken wouldn't need to tear it open, it only needs to deform it just enough. And when a pressure hull loses its shape, the ocean doesn't rush in. Instead, it implodes everything inward. No signal, no debris, and no explanation. Now let's zoom back out for a second. Understand that a single confirmed attack by this massive creature wouldn't just be a tragedy. It would change everything. Shipping lanes would empty, cruise travel would end overnight, military patrols would pull back from depths they could no longer control. And not simply because the ocean became more violent, but because it became inhabited by something that not only has the strength to destroy, but also the intelligence to understand how to do it efficiently. And if that wasn't chilling enough, everything you've just imagined is under the assumption that there is only one.
Strip away the spectacle, and what's left isn't just a monster. It's a condition. Size, intelligence, strength, and patience. This isn't the type of creature that you fight. It's something that you adapt around by trying to stay the heck away from it. The Kraken in movies doesn't hold a candle to the real thing.
Understand, giant octopus exist, colossal squid exist, and we still barely understand them. Most of what we know is still shrouded in mystery. Even known animals become legendary when only parts are seen. That isn't superstition, it's perception under pressure. Now look, we don't have proof of a living Kraken, no beaks, no body, and that matters because this was never about proving it existed.
It's about understanding why the legend becomes worse and not better when stripped of fantasy.
So you just spent a good amount of time sitting with an idea that isn't easy and even terrifying. Not a movie monster crashing through the waves, not a big loud fight we know how to cheer for. But the thought that when you take away the spectacle, the Kraken actually becomes scarier. Not because it's angry or something, but because it makes sense. Movies give us a Kraken we can see coming, one we can fight, and one that eventually loses. The version we talked about today is frightening for a completely different reason. It's quiet, it's patient, it's immensely powerful in ways that don't care about drama. You're probably wondering if a massive cephalopod or a biological Kraken is possible, then the answer is yes. And that's a heavy thought to sit with. And the fact that you stayed through it means that you aren't afraid to peer into the unknown with curiosity as your guide. And that means a lot to me. Because Paranormish isn't about trying to convince you of anything. It's about exploring ideas together, even uncomfortable ones. Maybe especially the uncomfortable ones, with curiosity instead of fear. The ocean still covers most of this planet. There are still plenty of places we don't fully understand, no matter how much some may deny it. Stories like the Kraken last because people were trying to describe something that was bigger than themselves. So, if this episode made you look at the ocean a little bit differently, or helped you appreciate just how strange and powerful this planet, our home, can be, then it did its job, and hopefully you'll subscribe for more Paranormish. Strangeness. Strangeness, yes. Anyways, thank you for taking this journey with me. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your curiosity. I'm genuinely glad that you're here. And until next time, stay curious.